Before we will proceed, my name is Danica Arwan from BTB TED Electrical Technology 3D, and I will be the one to discuss about feedback mechanism. What is feedback? Feedback is a dialogue between people which reflects back how another person sees someone else's behavior or performance. For me, yung feedback, ito yung mga komento galing sa ibang tao. Like example, kung ako yung magde-demo or mag-perform, so meron talaga yung mga judge or kung sino yung nandoon, sila po yung nagbibigay ng comment about sa performance nyo. So, doon sa feedback, malalaman mo kung okay na ba yung performance mo, kung kailangan ba talaga mag-improve. So, doon mo makukuha yung inspiration or strength sa feedback ng ibang tao. We have two types of feedback, which is positive feedback and negative or coercive feedback. In positive feedback, ito yung mga magagandang comment, like yung performance mo is parang maganda, like ganon. While yung negative or coercive feedback, ito yung mga dapat mo i-improve, yung mga mali or yung hindi nila nagustuhan sa performance mo. The next is the principles in giving effective feedback. So, first is give feedback only when asked to do so or when your offer is accepted. So, kung ikaw yung naka-assign na magbigay ng feedback, so ikaw lang talaga magbigay ng feedback. Kung hindi ka naka-assign dun para magbigay ng feedback, so hindi mo din gawin yun ng basta-basta kasi it depends kung sino yung magbibigay. The next is positive comments should be made first in order to give the trainee confidence and gain his or her attention. So, commonly talaga, unahin yung positive comments kasi through positive comment is parang nagbibigay ito ng interesting or confident or inspiration sa mga trainees. So, magiging mas lalo sila ma-attract or magugustuhan nilang gawin yung mga performance. Kasi kapag unahin natin yung negative, maaaring mga trainee na parang deadma sila, parang mawawala yung gana or yung confidence nila. The next is the language should be descriptive of specific behaviors rather than general comments indicating value judgment. So, dapat talaga yung gagamitin natin yung mga language which is dapat formal, hindi yung parang kumbaga yung gagamitin natin yung mga language is nasasaktan na yung mga trainee. Kumbaga yung mga ginamit natin yung mga language is kung parang nagja-judge na sa mga trainee. So, dapat talaga kahit negative man, pero kailangan talaga natin magiging profession kung paano natin magsalita. So, then next is the feedback should emphasize the sharing of information. There should be opportunities for both parties to contribute. So, kung nagbibigay ka ng feedback, also tanungin mo yung mga trainee kung ano to yung mga topic, parang kumbaga magiging makaroon ng social interaction between you and the trainee para mag-share kayo ng ideas or knowledge or contribute, parang ganon. So then next is the feedback should not be so detailed and broad and should not be overload the trainee. So dapat magbibigay tayo ng mga feedback is dapat yung mga dapat lang natin sabihin, hindi yung parang gusto mo na lang lahat mong sabihin. So kumbaga yung mga trainees magiging overload sila. Dapat yung mga kwan lang, yung konti lang, hindi talaga marami. So then next is the feedback should deal with the behaviors the trainee can control and change. So dito dapat yung sasabihin mo, which is yung mga trainee, pwede nila ma-control or pwede nila baguhin. Hindi yung sasabihin mo then mahirapan yung mga trainee kung ano yung mga sinasabi mo, yung mga kagustuhan mo. So dapat yung mga simple lang. The next is the feedback requires the ability to tolerate a feeling of discomfort. So, dito yung sa feedback, kahit na ginagamit yung mga nag-feedback sa atin yung mga formal na language. So, minsan din natin maiiwasan na masasaktan natin kung ano yung mga sinasabi nila about sa performance natin. So, kailangan talaga tanggapin natin kung ano yung mga sasabihin na yung mga sinasabi nila sa atin kahit na ito ay discomfort na. Next is give feedback as soon after the event as possible. So, pagkatapos nilang gawin, so, bigay agad ng feedback. Hindi yung tapos hindi ka pa magbigay. So, kailangan talaga, pagkatapos nilang gawin, kailangan magbigay talaga ng feedback. So, next is focus on the positive. So, as always talaga, focus sa positive for that training, magiging confident sila and interesting. The next is feedback needs to be given privately wherever possible, especially more negative feedback. Kung may gusto ka talagang sabihin sa kanila na face to face yung totoo, so kailangan talaga magbigay ng private para lang hindi sila mahiya sa iba, kasi minsan kasi kapag nandun sa maraming tao tapos sasabihin mo negative, kumbaga meron matatawa, so parang kumbaga mawawala yung mga confidence nila. The next is feedback needs to be part of the overall communication process and development dialogue. Use skills such as rapport or mirroring, developing respect and trusted with the learning. So next is this, stay in the here and now. Don't bring up old concern or previously mistake unless this is to highlight pattern of behavior. The next is focus on behavior that can be changed, not personality traits. Next is talk about and describe specific behaviors. Give example where possible and do not evaluate or assume motives. Next, use I and give your experience of the behavior, or when you said I thought that you were. So the next is when give negative feedback, suggest alternative behavior. So kapag magbibigay ka ng negative feedback, so kailangan talaga sabihin mo na ito yung mga dapat yung gawin, parang ganon. So the next is feedback is for the recipient, not the giver. Be sensitive to the impact of your message. So dapat alam mo talaga kung ano yung mga sinasabi mo doon. So kailangan talaga sensitive, kasi minsan yung mga sinasabi mo which is not parang masama na sa mga trainee or hindi na dapat sabihin. The next is consider the content of the message, the process of giving feedback, and the congruence between your verbal and non-verbal message. So kailangan talaga alam mo kung ano yung kung paano mo siya i-deliver. The next is encourage reflection. This will be involve posing open questions such as, did it go as planned? If not, why not? If you were doing it again, what would you do the same next time, and what would you do differently and why? How did you feel during the session? How do you feel about doing it again? How do you think the patient felt? What makes you think that? What did you learn from the session? So, kailangan talaga be clear about what you're giving feedback on and link this to the learner's overall professional development and or intended program. Reflection. This will be involve posing open questions such as, did it go as planned? If not, why not? If you were doing it again, what would you do the same next time, and what would you do differently and why? How did you feel during the session? How do you feel about doing it again? How do you think the patient felt? What makes you think that? What did you learn from the session? So, kailangan talaga be clear about what you're giving feedback on and link this to the learner's overall professional development and or intended program outcomes. Do not overload. So it means identify 2 or 3 key messages that you summarize at the end. So ibig sabihin, kailangan talaga kung ano yung mga gusto mong sabihin, kailangan yung mga summarize lang, hindi yung parang detailed na ba siya, para hindi yung magiging yung mga training hindi na maging overload. So ito yung mga feedback strategy. So yung characteristic is timing. So yung purpose niya is for student to get feedback while they are still mindful of the learning target. Then second, for student to get feedback while there is still time for them to act on it. So dapat kung magbibigay ka ng feedback, dapat timing lang para maintindihan talaga yung mga trainee, or pwede sila ma-answer yung mga sinasabi o yung mga tanong mo. The next is the amount. For student to get enough feedback so that they understand what to do, but not so much that the work has been done for them or differs cost by case. The next is for students to get feedback on teachable moment, points, but not as overwhelming number. The next is mode, to communicate the feedback message in the most appropriate way. The following tools provides written feedback about a trainee's performance. Then dito na yung progress chart, yung trainer's chart, record book, scores, and written test. The next is the audience, to reach the appropriate students with specific feedback, to communicate through feedback that student learning is valued. The next is focus, to describe specific qualities of the work in relation to the learning targets, to make observation about students' learning process improve, to foster student efficiency by drawing a connection between students while and their mindset, international efforts to avoid personal comments. So the next is the comparison, usually to compare student work with established evidence, established criteria. Sometimes to compare a student's work with his or her own past performance, and rarely to compare a student's work with the work of other students. And function, to describe student work and to avoid evaluating or judging student work in a way that would stop students from trying to improve. And then the last is valence, to use positive comments that describe what is well done, to make suggestions about what could be done for improvement. Next is barriers in giving feedback. First, a fear of upsetting the trainee or damaging the trainee or trainer relationship. Next is a fear of doing more harm than good. Next, the trainee being resistant or defensive when receiving criticism. Poor handling of a reaction to negative feedback can result in feedback being disregarded thereafter, and feedback being too generalized and not related to specific facts or observation. Next is feedback not giving guidance on how to rectify behavior. Next, inconsistent feedback from multiple sources. The last is a lack of respect for the source of feedback. The next is the role of feedback in learning. Feedback roles in the learning process is not simply information processing, but a more complex milieu, with feedback having an influence on the learner's affective and motivational processes, along with cues, participation, and reinforcement as one of these four elements to determine the quality of instruction. Also, feedback is an essential part of education and training program because feedback, it is really useful or important to us kasi doon natin makukuha yung mga confident kung ano yung mga dapat natin i-improve. The next is feedback in competency-based learning. Feedback is a vital to success of competency-based training. We all know that this is self-paced approach, continuous and instantaneous. There is three types of tools used in providing feedback: the progress chart, evaluative feedback, and trainee's record book. The first is the progress chart. In competency-based training, this is a chart that shows learning outcomes where the trainee shows the required degree of a competency. As you can see, this is the sample progress chart for TM1. These are the guidelines in making the progress chart. First is it should be written in a bold, preferably 4 feet by 6 feet in dimension so that it can be glanced by the trainee from any corner of the workshop. Second is the qualification. Title should be written on the top for that to be able the trainee to makita nila ito yung kanilang qualification. The next is it should contain all the learning outcomes as reflected in the And the second column in alphabetical order. So, dapat alphabetical talaga yung name. The next is the training duration reflects the nominal duration of the qualification. So, dapat kung ano yung nandun sa TR o sa qualification, dapat yun din yung duration. Hindi lang basta-basta gawin. Ito yung ganitong oras. Dapat nandun talaga sa qualification. The next is all trainers involved in the training are reflected in space provided. The next is the accomplishment chart. The accomplishment chart is a record of the required activities for every trainee. Compared to the progress chart, it's more detailed record of the self-checks, job sheets, operation sheets, competency assessments, and other related projects accomplished by each trainee. So, it is clear na yung accomplished chart, ito yung nagre-record lang nila yung activities or required activities. Yung progress chart, so ano na lahat, detailed tapos siya, yung job sheet, andun na. The next is evaluate feedback. Feedback about the results of competency assessment such as scores and acquired competency are very important information which the trainee should be notified of as soon as possible. So, nandun na. So, it is clear na dapat magbigay ka na ng feedback para yung mga trainee is ma-notify nila. Then, the characteristics of effective feedback. First is, it is specific and performance-based. Kung nagbibigay ka ng effective feedback is dapat more on performance lang sa mga trainee, hindi yung iba na. And the next is descriptive, not labeling. The next is, it focuses on the behavior, not the trainee. The next is, it is based on observation, repeated, or possible. I'm done to discuss about feedback mechanism. So let's go on CBT review and evaluation to be reported by Mr. Gerald Fernandez.
So, good day, my name is Gerald Fernandez, and the topic that I will report today is about CBT review and evaluations and more. So, competency-based training, like any trainings, should evolve dynamically. The evaluation of training refers to any attempt to obtain information or feedback on the effects of a training program and to assess the value of the training in the light of that information. It is important after you deliver a training session that you review your delivery and look at what went well and what might be improved. So here are examples. First column, methods. Second column is advantages, and third is disadvantages. In methods, we have a 4. First, we have evaluation sheets. The advantage is cheap and easy to use, identifies areas for improvement, and the disadvantages is cannot identify skills acquired and gives limited information. Second is interviews with trainees or supervisors. The advantages is provides useful information, explore problems in depth, and disadvantage is time-consuming. Effectiveness depends on the skills of the interviewer and supervisors. And can use checklist provides expert opinion, may influence time-consuming, and evaluation workshops provides useful in-depth information, provides opportunity for open discussions. Time-consuming, costly, results difficult to report, need an experienced facilitator. And the CBT evaluation tools and information required and evaluation tool. Number 1 is seek expression of satisfaction with the training process from the trainees. Then the tool is rating skills and written comments. Number 2, examine his or her own perceptions of the success of the training process. And the tool is rating skills, self-evaluation, written comments from trainees. Number 3 is examine success of the training program in the light of the subject criteria. The tool is focus group discussion and a specific criteria. Number 4 is examine success of the training program in the light of the area of the objective criteria. And the tool is passing rates in assessments, average training time to achieve satisfactory level performance. And the fifth is review success of training program in meeting enterprise goals. Rating scale on applicability of competencies acquired, written comments, impact of evaluations. The last one is examine on performance, evaluation of preparation timelines, thoroughness, attitude towards trainees, closing training session. And rating sheets. Rating sheets. In preparing and rating sheets to evaluate competency-based training, a trainer must recall the characteristics of an ideal competency-based training CBT. Focus group discussion. To use a focus group discussion as a form of evaluation, you will have to list down discussion questions which focuses on the areas you want to evaluate. And document review. This is done to gather information relating to the average training time of learners to acquire the desired level of competency, to identify the success rates in the national and institutional assessment, and to summarize the written comments to participants, supervisors, and other stakeholders. Areas of evaluation. Depending on the purpose and objectives of the review and evaluations of CBT sessions, the following areas must give an example considerations. Where's overall preparation? This should give a clear picture on how prepared you are in delivering the CBT sessions. Program designs. Evaluating this area will tell you whether the learners are able to follow the CBT framework. In the support staff, this area will give you an idea whether you are maintaining the right staff to help you deliver CBT sessions effectively. And the last one is this must be evaluated if you want to have an idea if you conform with TESDA training requirements, whether the learners are satisfied with them. And self-evaluations. The important part of the evaluation process is the self-evaluation. Self-evaluation can take place during your training session as you reflect on how things are going. This will help you make an instant changes to your plan in response to the situations. Self-evaluations can also take place after training sessions when you ask yourself in-depth questions about whether there are things to be changed or problems to be solved. The following strategies can be used for evaluating your own training and help you improve. Number 1, take a video of the CBT and look for ways to improve yourself. Number 2 is ask for feedback from colleagues and other trainers. Number 3 is compare your training methods and techniques with other trainers. Interpretations and analysis of evaluation results. The above sample rating sheet of the evaluation of training session uses the 5-point Likert scale. Adjectival ratings corresponding to the numeric ratings were described as follows. 5 means outstanding, and 4 means very good or very satisfactory, and 3 is good or adequate, and 2 is fair and satisfactory, and number 1 is poor or unsatisfactory. For purposes of analysis, the following ratings will be used. 4.5 to 5, and 5 is outstanding, and 3.5 to 4.49 means very good or very satisfactory, and 2.5 to 3.49 good and adequate, 1.5 to 2.49 fair satisfactory, and 0.0 to 1.49 means poor and unsatisfactory. Below is the sample data for the purpose of illustrating the result. We have preparations and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The poor, unsatisfactory, fair, satisfactory, good, adequate, very good or very satisfactory, and outstanding, and the average in interpretations. In preparation, we have a workshop layout conforms with the components of a CBT workshops, and numbers of civilian is sufficient. Third is orientation given is clear and comprehensive. Fourth is objectives of every training session is well explained. And fifth is, and lastly is expected activities, outputs, and clarified. And you give the number or scores, and you give the total average and the interpretation, whether it is good, adequate, or fair, and your overall average. And analysis and interpretation of data. The hypothetical data shown above is analyzed and interpreted as follows. The table above shows the average ratings of 25 trainees who weighted the preparation of the training sessions. The data reveals that the clarity and comprehensiveness of orientation activities is rated with an average of 2.28, which is fair. The workshop layout 2.88, sufficiency of CBLM 2.96, and how well objectives are explained is rated with an average of 3.2, are rated as goods. Overall average rating, which is 2.61, means that preparation is generally good or adequate. And pre-test and post-test presented below is a hypothetical data of the pre-test and post-test scores, which will be the basis of our discussions and example of analyzing the results of a pre-test and post-test. First column is students, second is pre-test score, and third is post-test score. So the graph of the pre-test and the post-test scores. The color blue is the pre-test scores and the red is the post-test scores. You will see that the post-test scores is higher than the pre-test scores. So sample analysis. From the pre-test and post-test scores above, and the graph is generated. The blue line represents the pre-test scores and the trainees, and the red line represents the post-test scores. Generally, the red line is higher than the blue line, which means the post-test scores are generally higher than the pre-test scores, although some students did not show an increase in scores, like in the case of a trainee 15, 16, and 17. To establish that there is an increase in score statistically, which tests the null hypothesis, there are no significant differences between the pre-test and post-test scores using paired t-test. Steps. Microsoft Excel provides statistical tools to do this. Steps in statistical analysis. Number 1, install Excel Analysis Package in Excel. So how? First is click the Microsoft Office button and then click Excel options and click add-ins, and then the manage box, select Excel add-ins. Click go. In the add-ins available box, selected the analysis tool pack checkbox and then click OK. Tip: if analysis tool pack is not listed in the add-ins available box, click browse to locate it. If you are prompted that the analysis tool pack is not currently installed on your computer, click yes to install it. After installing analysis tool pack, you will see the data analysis icon on your data toolbar. And use the Excel to analyze data. Type your data in Excel. First column students, second is pre-test scores, and third is post-test scores. To perform paired t-test and select the data, click on the icon Data Analysis. The dialog box on Analysis tool will appear, and then click OK. Then click OK. Number 3, click on the red arrow besides the blank area for a variable 1 range and select the range of scores for post-test. Then click on the arrow again. Click on the red arrow besides the blank area for variable 2 range. Select the range for pre-test scores. Then click on the red arrow to go back to the dialog box. Fifth is on the blank area for hypothesize, means difference type 0. Select the output range or the range where the table will appear, then click OK. T-test paired to sample for means. Here's our example. Sample analysis. The table shows the mean difference between pre-test and post-test scores. It also shows if the scores are statistically different. The mean difference of pre-test and post-test scores is 4.59 and the p-value is 0.001. which means the pre-test and post-test are significantly different. That is, post-test scores are higher than pre-test scores. This means that the training increases the knowledge and skills of the trainees. This stat is the mean difference of scores, while P is the probability that these test scores are significantly the same. If the p-value is below 0.05, the test scores are significantly different at 95%. 95% degree of significance. If the p-value is greater than 0.05, there are no significant differences between the pre-test and post-test. Training session adjustment. The results from these methodologies are legitimate sources of information and basis for adjusting training sessions, self-assessment, and self-reflections. If properly recorded in the provided space in the session plan, will give the trainer an idea what to adjust to improve the attainment of knowledge and skills. Trainee satisfactions of the training session activities that are unsuccessful. Feedback from trainees, among others, are sources of important information which will lead to a successful adjustment in the training session. Proper documentations and analysis of this important data should be done to serve as a basis for more scientific modifications in training. Documentation should be submitted to proper authorized authorities to serve as a basis for decision making about training and methodologies and curriculum. These documents may be very useful to the following: first, other instructors; second is the research team; third, the vocational instruction supervisor, and the administrator. And that's all. Thank you.